It's 11:43 on a Tuesday night. You're lying in bed scrolling through headlines on your phone, and every single one of them is screaming about gold. Gold hits new record high. Gold goes over 5,000. Gold is the ultimate safe haven. And somewhere between the third and the fourth headline, you do something you've never done. You open a new tab and type, "How to buy gold." You don't even know what you would be buying. A coin? A bar? Piece of paper saying you own a bar? You just know that the world is burning, the stock market is a casino, and this glowing yellow metal that humans have been obsessed with for 6,000 years is the only thing that makes sense right now. Here's the issue. That feeling, that urgent, instinctive, almost primeval certainty that gold is the answer, is one of the most expensive feelings in personal finance. And I'll show you exactly why. My name's Sam, and today we're going to do something that the gold industry, the doomsday preppers, and a surprisingly large chunk of financial media really don't want you to see. We're going to crunch the actual numbers on gold as an investment, compare it to the boring stuff that actually builds wealth, and by the end of this, you'll understand why the shiny metal that feels like security might be one of the most expensive security blankets you'll ever buy. Let's start with where we are today, because the numbers are staggering. Market data tracked by Kitco and the World Gold Council show gold hit an all-time high of $5,598 per ounce in January of 2026. It's trading about $4,500 right now. Gold is up about 37% in the last year by itself. It's up about 140% over 5 years, over 269% in a decade. These are real numbers. Those are big numbers. And if you stopped right there, you would think that gold is the best investment on the planet. But here's where the fun really begins. Because when you zoom out, way out, past the headlines, past the panic, the long-term story of gold tells you something entirely different. Professor Aswath Damodaran at the NYU Stern School of Business has kept data on asset class returns going back nearly a century, and gold has averaged about a 5% to 5.5% annualized return over the last 40 years. Over the same period, the S&P 500 has returned about 11% per year. 5.5% versus 11%, that gap sounds small. Sounds like a round-off error. This isn't a rounding error. It's the difference between retiring comfortably and wondering where the money went. Let me show you. Say two guys, Marcus and David, both 28, both making 75 grand a year, both decide to start investing $500 a month on the same Tuesday afternoon. Marcus, who has been reading headlines about gold and watching a lot of videos with eagles and American flags in the thumbnail, puts his $500 a month into gold. David is boring. David owns precisely 0 eagles. David puts his $500 a month into an S&P 500 index fund. Same amount of money. Same school of thought. Same start line. Fast forward 30 years. Marcus's gold portfolio has increased to about $390,000, based on the historical average annualized return of gold of about 5%. That's on $180,000 of contributions. He almost doubled his money. That sounds pretty cool, right? Sounds like he did it. Now David, let's see him. David's S&P 500 index fund, with dividends reinvested, now makes about 10% a year and is just over $1 million. Same $500 a month. Same 30 years. Same start line. The stark difference between Marcus and David is over $600,000. $600,000. And the only difference is, Marcus chose the thing that felt safe and David chose the thing that was boring. Now here's the part that should stop you cold. Not a dividend did Marcus's gold pay him. 30 years, not a cent of income. Gold pays no dividends. It does not bear interest, no rent. It just sits there looking pretty, waiting for someone else to come along and pay more for it than you did. That's the whole business model. You purchase it. One hopes. You wait. Hartford Funds explains that reinvested dividends and the power of compounding have contributed 85% of the S&P 500's cumulative total return since 1960. 85%. That means most of the wealth the stock market has created didn't come from prices rising. Because you got paid to own them. Then you took that money and reinvested it to buy more companies. Gold has none of that. Gold has lost its compounding engine. It's a car with no engine. You push it uphill and hope gravity finally works to your advantage. Let me introduce you to a man who I will call Kevin. You see, Kevin is the man that the gold industry would rather not talk about. Kevin is 42 years old. He earns $110,000 a year, far higher than the median household income of about $84,000, the Census Bureau says. Kevin thinks of himself as being financially responsible. He has a 401k through his work. He's got emergency fund. He is reading a newspaper. And when gold was screaming past $5,000 an ounce and every headline was saying the world was ending in early 2026, Kevin moved $40,000 of his retirement savings into gold. Not all of that. Exactly what he considered a, quote, safe amount. A hedge. Insurance against disorder. Let's walk through what Kevin actually bought and what it actually cost him. Kevin decided to buy physical gold because he wanted the real thing and not a piece of paper. He found a dealer on the internet, a reputable one with good reviews. He bought it when the spot price of gold was about $5,200 an ounce. But Kevin didn't buy at the spot price. No one pays spot price. The dealer charged a premium of about 4% for the 1-ounce coins. That means Kevin paid roughly $5,408 a coin. That premium alone cost him about $1,500 on $40,000 worth of gold. That's money that went up in smoke the moment he clicked buy. Then there's storage. Kevin doesn't keep $40,000 in gold in his sock drawer, so he pays for a professional depository. The annual storage and insurance charge is roughly 0.5% of the value, or about $200 a year. And if he ever wants to move it, that's insurance on top of that. And when Kevin finally wants to sell, the dealer is going to buy it back at a discount, usually 2 to 3% below the spot price. So Kevin bought above the spot price. He pays yearly to keep it. And when he sells, he will be under spot. Meanwhile, David, our boring index fund investor from earlier, opened his account at Fidelity in 20 minutes, bought FXAIX with an expense ratio of 0.015%, which is basically free, set up automatic monthly contributions, and hasn't thought about it since. David's investment of $40,000 costs him $6 a year. Kevin's is $200 and something. David's investment is paying him dividends every quarter that automatically buy more shares that pay more dividends. Kevin's gold is literally just sitting in a vault in Delaware doing absolutely nothing. But here's the real kick in the teeth. Kevin bought near the high in early 2026. Gold topped out at $55.98 in January and has since pulled back to around $4,500. That's down about 19% in 4 months. Kevin's $40,000 is now worth about $32,400. He's $7,000 down. And history says this kind of thing happens all the time with gold. By January 1980, gold had risen to $850 an ounce. In today's dollars, that's about $3,000, adjusted for inflation. If you bought gold at that peak, it took you over 40 years to break even in inflation-adjusted terms. 40 years. A whole working life of having an asset and not getting your purchasing power back. In 2011, gold was at about $1,900 an ounce, and then fell 45% over the next 4 years to bottom out at about $1,050 in late 2015. People who bought at the top in 2011 didn't get their money back for nearly a decade. These are not some obscure examples. These are the 2 most famous gold rallies in modern history, and both of those cases saw the people buying at the height of excitement get absolutely decimated. And here's the iceberg beneath the whole thing. Why buy gold today? Not the nice answer. The genuine one. You're buying it because you're afraid. No insult there. That is the clinical view. Gold demand jumps on fear. A Gallup poll from April 2025 indicated that 23% of Americans now believe gold is the best long-term investment, up from 18% a year earlier. Meanwhile, only 16% picked stocks, down from 22%. In other words, the American public is doing the exact opposite of what the math says to do at the very time the stock market is on sale and gold is at an all-time high. They're buying the thing that just got expensive and selling the thing that just got cheap. A way of going long on fear. Warren Buffett has called investing in gold, and I quote, he asked his readers to imagine taking all the gold in the world, which at the time was about 170,000 metric tons, melting it down into a single cube about 68 feet per side, and comparing it to what else you could buy for the same money. His answer, all the cropland in the United States, 400 million acres, plus 16 ExxonMobils, then the world's most profitable corporation, with about $1 trillion in walking around money to spare. The farmland would keep growing crops. The companies would still report earnings. The gold cube would simply sit there. You could stroke it, Buffett said, but it wouldn't talk back. That's not my take. That's the take of the most successful investor in human history. Now let me take on the three things you're really thinking right now. Not the good ones. The real thing. First thing. But gold is an inflation hedge. This is the big one. This is what every gold commercial, every gold website, every dude at the bar with a podcast will tell you. And over very, very long periods, centuries basically, gold has roughly kept pace with inflation. But here's what Duke University professor Campbell Harvey found. Gold is a poor hedge against inflation over time horizons that matter to investors, 1 to 10 years. It is as volatile as the stock market, has almost no correlation to actual inflation rates over short periods of time, and often underperforms in the very inflationary environments it is supposed to protect you from. It's an umbrella that works great in theory, but has a 50/50 chance of collapsing every time it actually rains. Second, but the stock market might crash. Yes, it could have. It has. It will once more. The S&P 500 fell 86% in the Great Depression. It fell 57% in 2008. During COVID, it dropped 34% in 23 trading days. And each time it bounced back. The S&P 500 has never lost money over any rolling 20-year period. Not a single time. Not in times of world wars. Not during a financial crisis. Not during the pandemics. The worst annualized return in S&P 500 history for a 30-year period is 4.3%. 4.3. Worst case scenario. Meanwhile, gold's worst case after the 1980 peak was 40 years of negative real returns. 40 years. The thing you're buying to protect yourself from stock market crashes has a worst case scenario than the stock market. Third, but what about the gold moneymakers? Name one. No gold mining company executive. Not a gold dealer who makes money selling you gold. A real human being who made generational wealth by buying and holding gold like Ronald Reed, a gas station attendant and janitor who never made more than $20,000 a year, made $8 million by buying dividend stocks for 70 years. How Sylvia Bloom, a Manhattan legal secretary, silently tracked the stock buys of the lawyers she worked for and died with $9 million. Grace Groner bought 3 shares of Abbott Labs in 1935 for $180, reinvested every dividend, never sold and died in 2010 with $7.2 million. These are actual people. They are genuine. They are on record. Gold doesn't compound, so there's no gold version of these people. It pays no dividends to reinvest. It doesn't increase profit. It just sits. So why does gold look so right when the maths are so wrong? Because your brain was designed for it. That's what behavioral economists call loss aversion. Kahneman and Tversky's research demonstrates that the pain of losing $100 is 2.25 times stronger than the pleasure of winning $100. Whenever you see a headline like "Markets in Turmoil," your brain's fear center goes off like a Christmas tree, and it begins hollering at you to do something. Gold is the something. It's a security blanket for your finances. In fact, it does not warm you up. It just seems like it does. There's what psychologists call exponential growth bias, which is a fancy way of saying about a third of people see compound growth as linear. They look at a compounding portfolio, draw a straight line and say, it's going nowhere. So when they see a chart of gold going up 37% in 1 year, that looks better than a chart of an index fund growing 10% a year for 30 years, even though the index fund created literally millions more in wealth. Your brain enjoys the spike. That spike is exciting. Growth of compounds is boring. That's where the money is. Lame. Well, now let me tell you who really profits from your purchase of gold. Not you. The gold dealer that will charge you a 4% premium to buy and 3% to sell. The gold depository charging you 0.5% a year to store a metal that does nothing. The financial media outlet that published the gold panic headline to get you in, which sold an ad impression, which is the real product being created. The gold-centric financial advisor charging you a management fee on an asset that doesn't generate any income. And when you buy gold, every single person in the gold transaction makes money. When you open a free brokerage account, buy a 0.015% index fund, and forget about it, they are not making any money. That's not a conspiracy. It is a business model. And you're not the customer. You are the product. Here is what I want you to do. This is where we stop talking about what doesn't work and start talking about what does. First step. If you don't have an account, open a Roth IRA at Fidelity, Vanguard, or Schwab. like 20 minutes. If you are a single filer making under $153,000 or married making under $228,000, you qualify. Second step, open your bank account and set up a monthly auto transfer. Start with what you have, $100, $200, $500. It's not so much the volume, it's the consistency. Step 3, purchase an S&P 500 index fund. Fidelity's FXAIX, expense ratio 0.015%. Vanguard VOO, 0.03%. SWPPX at Schwab, 0.02%. Your choice. They are the same functionally. Step 4. Set up automatic dividend reinvestment. This here is the motor. This is what gold does not have. 85% of the wealth is from this one. Step 5. Close the application. Don't check it daily. Don't check it every week. Make a yearly calendar reminder to look at it. It works better the less you tinker with it. That's not a joke. Fidelity looked at this and found that the best performing accounts were held by people who were dead, or who had literally forgotten they had the account. The Delbar Research Group has published the same finding every year for 15 years running. The average equity investor lags the index by 8.5 percentage points. Not because the index is complicated, but because people keep fiddling with it. Bottom of the panic selling. Buying gold at the peak. The exact opposite of what the math calls for. This is the urgency. $500 per month for 30 years at 10% annual returns gets you just over $1 million right now. 1 year later, you need $520 to do the same thing. Wait 5 years, you need $690. Wait 10 years, you need more than $1,000 a month. The window won't stay open. It's getting smaller every day. And every day you spend researching gold coins, comparing dealers, reading about vault storage options, and worrying about the apocalypse is a day your money isn't compounding in the single most powerful wealth-building vehicle in financial history. 30 years from now, there is a version of yourself. That person has $1 million account for retirement that they barely thought about. They didn't do anything special. They didn't do stock picking. They never timed the market. They didn't buy gold or crypto or whatever the next shiny thing is. They just automatically transferred, bought one boring index fund, and moved on with their life. And there is another version. 30 years later, same chair, same income, same capability, but they spent 2 decades chasing safety. A bit of gold in here, some cash in there. Got caught in the 2028 correction. Too late. Went back, bought gold again the next time a scare came. And now they are 62 years old with a fraction of what they could have, and wondering how the person at the next desk who made the same salary got so far ahead. Both these